minute, Jack. This is a friendly celebration.
I don't much like the way you celebrate.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Don Woolley, and I'm coming to you from Florida, USA today. And we haven't been on for about 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm happy to join you today. Hope you guys are having a good beginning to your summer. We have a lot of things going on in the world and in the country and locally, so we'll talk about some of those today with some of my friends coming on here in a few minutes. We expect Paul Fitch and Ken Bennett, maybe Zach Taylor, and I don't think Jeff Hooch is going to join us today, but we'll see. So anyway, happy to be with you. Been going over some of the news today about Trump and supposedly his dispute with Elon Musk. I know that I wouldn't make too much of all that. I'm sure they're still friends, and they've done too many things together, have gotten too close to each other. And I think Elon's just upset because the EV mandate's going away in this big, beautiful bill, and that kind of hurts his sales of electric cars, so we can understand that. So anyway, that being said, some other things going on as the German Chancellor was in Washington, D.C. today meeting with Trump, and I believe, don't know how that all went well. I don't know if that went well or not. I saw a little bit of their pre-conference meeting, in the Oval Office, and hopefully President Trump is going to be smart enough to recognize that the European Union, Germany, France, England, they're all keep trying to sabotage his peace talks with Russia, and hopefully he recognizes that, and it will stop some of this nonsense that's going on. I see where President Putin is referring to Ukraine as a terrorist country now. I didn't come right out and say it, but said that how do you negotiate with someone who's into terrorism? You know, a lot of people didn't hear about that they sabotaged a bridge and killed a bunch of civilians on some trains in Russia. All they want to talk about is the drone attack on some of the airplanes in Russia. So anyway, yeah, they killed over 70 people, civilians on trains, and I think that's what Putin's referring to. So that is a bad situation. We need to get out of there. No money, no weapons, no intel. And I hope that that's what happens. So anyway, we hope that President Trump hangs tough and keeps working to try to, if not solve that thing, get out of it completely, because it's too much of a mess. And you can't reason with Zelensky. He talks badly about JD, talks badly about Trump, does bad things. So I would stop, I would discontinue that association because it's not going anywhere. Anyway, so I'm going to admit Paul Fitch to the room and tell him we're recording already, and hope that Ken Bennett joins us. So let me get him in here. And hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm Don. Yourself?
I'm good. Yeah, we're recording already. So I gave a little introduction to the show today, and And how you been, and how's it going, and how's the weather in Arizona?
Well, I was just outside putting the garbage cans back up. One of my duties each week. And I was commenting to myself how pleasant it is. It's hot, but it's not miserable hot, and the sun's shining. It's really nice. The only problem I've got is Mary Margaret's in Mississippi.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you said she was going down there. So yeah.
Yeah, she's visiting her brother over there, and I'm all alone, Don.
Oh, well, that's why you have friends here, right?
That's right. I have to go on TV to find a friend.
So
I guess that's better than being in Washington, where if you want a friend, you got to get a dog.
Yeah, that's right. So you have trash duty too, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did. We did that last night. I did that last night. So, yeah, we get it every Wednesday night and Sunday night, and they pick it up on Thursday morning and Monday morning. So we get it twice a week, which is kind of nice.
Well, fortunately we got the big cans, so we just do it once a week.
You store it up once a week. I know.
Put it out on Wednesday night.
We still have the old garbage trucks with the workers hanging on to the back and picking it up. So it's very interesting.
Ours have got these little grippers that
I know.
Drive up the can and grab the thing and dump it over the.
Yeah, I remember Sarita, he come by and lift it up, throw it in. He never got out of the truck. Right? Air conditioned too, probably.
Yeah, they don't hardly even slow down.
They don't. Yeah, they really get going. So while we're waiting for
Patty?
Yeah. Oh, she's good. She's very good. Thanks for asking. I didn't. Last two Thursdays, I don't know what was going on, but I did not feel good either of the last two Thursdays. So when you said you couldn't make it last week, and I called off 2 weeks ago, and then you couldn't make it last week, and Jeff said he couldn't be on for the full time, and I wasn't feeling very good, so I went ahead and called last week's show off too. So feeling better this week, feeling good, feel like talking about things. I'm not sure what we'll talk about. I thought maybe we'd rant about anything in the state or locally, and then that'd be one rant, and then the second rant would be internationally or for the country, for Washington D.C., whatever we want. So we'll see if Ken Bennett will join us here. I hope he does, and I don't know if Zach's going to be on or not either. So we'll be surprised.
I got a couple of things I can rant about.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you do. Yeah. First thing I want to ask you though, before we start that, is what's the reaction to, or has there been any reaction to your governor, Katie Hobbs, vetoing that bill that would prevent China from buying any land in Arizona? Is that getting a lot of attention, or does anybody care?
I haven't seen a whole lot on it. The Arizona Free News had a little article on it, and what I'm hoping it'll do is boost Andy Biggs' chances of getting that.
Yeah,
share,
he's all over X just about that subject. So just to let you know,
because that woman, there's something wrong with her, literally. I mean, she is focused on not helping the people of Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be the only. She's got the pride flags hanging above the American flag on the Capitol building, which most everybody in the country today has finally said, okay, we know there are queers out there. Yeah. We don't need to advertise it.
Yeah. Right.
Just let's make America great. In fact, I think the Secretary of Education said, let's make this Title IX month instead of LGBTQRX.
Yeah, it's also Salute Veterans Month. So, yeah, anything but what it was.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's scary. But I speaking of veterans, and that's not exactly where we were, but the next Saturday is not this coming, but the next Saturday is the Flag Day.
Yeah.
And the Army's 250th anniversary.
Right.
So I bought a big old 4x6 foot American flag, and I've got my U.S. Army flags, and I'm ready to run them up the flagpole on Saturday.
Good for you. Yeah. They're having that big parade back in D.C. too. So,
yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah,
we haven't had a big military parade like that in a long time.
If that would have been in July, we were thinking about putting our car on the train down here and going on up there, but it's too soon in a couple of weeks or 10 days, so that doesn't work out too good. You can't get reservations on it. They have an auto train that runs from Sanford, Florida up to D.C. It goes overnight, and that it only makes those 2 stops. So you go up there, take your car off, put your car back on, and then it brings you back home. So you get a bedroom suite to stay in. So we'll do that. I told Patty we're going to do that to go up and see President Trump in the White House. But when things settle down in Washington D.C. and it gets they get some of their security things fixed and some of their crime and some of the cleanup done that Trump wants to do, we're going to go up there. So anyway, that's going to be a big deal. It should really be on TV. I'm sure it'll be on Right Side Network, but some of the other networks might carry it too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Army has put together for their anniversary.
And what's coming up on June 6th, right?
D-Day.
There you go. Yeah. That should be a holiday too, or not a holiday, but that should be a recognized day. D-Day, VE Day, and VJ Day should all be recognized as special days in this country.
VJ and VE days should be. The rest of the wars, I don't think we have any Vs.
No, we don't. No, that's right. Politicians kept us from doing that. Yeah. So Ken's knocking on the door here, so hold on. We'll get him on.
All right.
Hello, Ken Bennett.
Hello, all.
Hey, how are you doing? And we are live and recording already, so we welcome you. And how have you been?
Been good.
Good.
Been very good.
Good. Hip's okay?
Hip's good. Haven't fallen off the roof, and
well, that's good news.
We got some good rain in Prescott yesterday. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, we had
last couple days. Yeah.
That's good. Great. Yeah, I saw where you guys had some stormy weather. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, we had rain, and we're getting our regular rains in Florida. We had another good rain today, so we're finally out of our dry spell. So
I hear there's terrible storms in the central Midwest or southern Midwest or something.
Oh yeah. I guess
Wichita and places.
Yeah, yeah, it's that time of year.
We used to blame all that on those guys walking around on the moon, upsetting the balance of things, but now it's climate change.
The moon men. So I was talking to Paul Ken about. We started out. I said we want to talk about your. What would your rant be if you wanted to rant about something locally or in the state, and then what would your rant be if you wanted to rant about something in the country or internationally? But first, I want to ask you. I asked Paul about Katie Hobbs and her veto of the bill to not let China buy any land in Arizona, and if that's getting any press or anything, and if I saw where Andy Biggs is making hay out of it on X, but is anybody in Arizona concerned about that or talking about it, or what have you heard?
Well, I think most of the Republicans and independents and many Democrats who are rightly concerned about China owning land near military bases and things like that are very concerned.
Yeah.
And I haven't read the entire bill, but because she vetoed one similar last year, so I don't think there's anything to say that would pacify her, or she'd come up with an excuse to. In fact, I think I read in the paper that she thought it would be clumsy to implement somehow or whatever. Well. There's a lot of clumsy things in life that we have to deal with, and if we have to be a little clumsy in implementing some protections, that communist China is not buying land around Arizona military bases and sensitive places, then I'll take clumsy if we can get some common sense.
There you go. Or land around around your nuclear power plant. Right?
Power plant. You got the dams. You got.
Oh yeah.
Got all kinds of. We're making lots of chips, computer chips here between Intel and
that's
Taiwan
right.
Semiconductor and all kinds of places. Lots of important things happening in Arizona, and the Chinese government doesn't need to have. And then even our food supply. They just arrested 2 people from China coming in with some type of a.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes,
wasn't a virus. They called it something.
It's a fungus.
Yeah.
Fungus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Some type of a fungus that the last thing we need is China messing with food supply, our military bases, our electrical grid, all kinds of sensitive things. And the fact that she vetoed that bill is, I think, unconscionable.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you talk about the Chinese. I just printed out an article here. A guy named Mac, see what's his name, Bracken. Mac Bracken. Anyway, I don't know if you can read the headlines here, but it says there's already a Chinese army in the United States. He's kind of counted up all the gotaways and the people that have been coming in for asylum that are from China, military-aged single men. And
what's his number? Does he have a total number?
He had a number. Let's see if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, I know.
Amongst yourself.
Yeah, there's no doubt they've been coming in. So yeah, no big surprise.
And Matt Bracken, let's see.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Katie, was Hobbs. Have they agreed to a budget yet? Have you guys?
Answer is no. I was down around the Capitol yesterday and got to talk to several people. Apparently, there's some pretty significant difference between the Republicans in the Senate and the House. The Senate apparently wants to use the method that was used a couple years ago, where there's a couple $100 million surplus, perhaps, maybe, and so you divide that up amongst every legislator and you give everybody. I heard somebody call it the Oprah Winfrey method of budgeting. You give everybody $5 million, and
wow.
And they get to spend it on literally whatever they want, and then their vote for the overall budget is the price that they pay for getting their $5 million. But I've never been a fan of doing government budgeting per Oprah Winfrey's.
Yeah,
method,
that doesn't sound smart.
So the Republicans in the Senate want to do this. Everybody gets a $5 million something, and the House doesn't want to do it that way, and so it allows. And I guess Hobbs doesn't want to do it that way this time, although she agreed to do it that way 2 years ago. But it's going to be interesting. The House was meeting on the floor yesterday to clean up a few bills, but then they summarily adjourned for almost 2 weeks, 12 days. So neither the House or the Senate are coming back until the middle of the month, and the budget's got to be done by June 30th. So it's a bit of a mess, but it's not just a conflict between the Republicans and Hobbs.
Gotcha.
There's a conflict within the Republicans.
Yeah, well, we're going through the same thing in Florida. We have a conflict between the House and the Senate on what taxes to cut, and the House insists on cutting sales tax, which DeSantis says no, he won't approve a budget with a cut in sales tax. He wants to tax the Canadians or any of the winter visitors and everybody. He says, why would we cut taxes for them? He says, we need to cut taxes for Florida residents. So he wants to come up. Yeah, he wants to come up with a property tax decrease. And so they're still far apart, and they put together some committee that in the House that's studying the property tax, and DeSantis is poking fun at them. So they're not getting anywhere. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we're on the same deadline. June 30th is the budget's got to be there, so it's going to be very interesting. Yeah. So anyway, well, it's pretty exciting in both states that we're all heading for these deadlines. And
have I told you my budget story about Napolitano?
Well, go ahead and tell it, because I kind of remember it, but go ahead and repeat it for the folks.
Well, I was president of the Senate 2003, 4, 5, and 6. Those were the first 4 years that Janet Napolitano was the governor of the state. She narrowly won over Matt Salmon, who was in Congress his first time and ran for
Oh
governor.
yeah, I remember that. That was like 2 or 3 tenths, right?
Oh, it was very close.
Yeah.
In fact, it was around 10,000 votes, which was very similar to the 10,000 vote margin between Trump and Biden back in 2020.
Yeah, and Ken didn't. No, I don't. Sorry to interrupt, but didn't the crowd that voted for the other person in the primary? I don't remember who ran against Matt in the primary, but they didn't want to vote for. They wouldn't vote for him when he won the primary.
Matt
and that made the difference.
Matt's LDS, member of the same church I'm at, the Church of Jesus Christ. Many say Mormons, but we're trying to de-emphasize Mormon and emphasize the fact that we're Christians. So it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Anyway,
sure.
But yeah, there's quite a few hardline evangelical Christians who think so lowly of the quote Mormons, the LDS, that they say that alone, there were enough probably of those people who didn't vote for him in the general. There were 2 ballot propositions that year. This would have been 2002. There were 2 ballot propositions that year about Native American tribes being able to do their gambling operations and have casinos and things like that. And so 20 of the 22 tribes had one proposition on the ballot, and then there was one rogue Indian tribe in the state that came up with its own idea, and so it got it on the ballot. So there was a lot of driving Native Americans to the ballot. There's some people that say just those 2 ballot measures alone probably drew enough Native Americans to the ballot to get Napolitano over the hump versus Salmon. There was another something on the ballot that year. Anyway, it was a very close election, but Napolitano wins. And so it's the exact same situation we've got now. Republicans narrowly controlled the legislature, but a Democrat governor. And I think it was the first I think it was the second year. It must have been 2004. The first couple of years, the budget was terrible because the budget that Jane Hull had left was in a deficit. They had planned on more revenue that was coming in. 2003, that's right after 9/11. Y2K had just been a couple years earlier. And so the recession that was kind of lingering after the 9/11 attacks lingered a little longer than Jane Hull thought. So the first thing that Napolitano and I had to do was cut $120 million from the budget that Jane Hull had left, which we did. Then we passed a budget that was basically you get what you got last year. And then it was the next year we were fighting the House, the Senate, and the governor. And finally, it was like June 28th, and we had to get a budget done. And so we decided that we would all 3 meet over in the Senate one night, starting at 9 o'clock at night. So I go into this big conference room, and the 2 guys that the Speaker of the House had assigned from the Republicans to represent the House were sitting there. Eddie Farnsworth, the Majority Leader, Russell Pierce, the Appropriations Chair, both very conservative, and both of them did not get along with Napolitano at all.
I bet. Yeah.
And so then, I walk in with my Majority Leader and Appropriations Chair, and we sat in kind of the middle of the table, and then within a couple of minutes, Napolitano walks in. She sits on the other side of the table. And before I can even welcome everyone to the Senate, Eddie Farnsworth says something to Governor Napolitano that just pushes her buttons. And so she fires right back at him. And then Russell Pierce says something that pushes another set of buttons of hers. And she fires right back at him. And then Eddie starts to say something a second time, and Janet and I got to be careful because I know we're recorded and on air here. So I'll put some bleeps in here, but Janet grabs this big stack of papers and books in front of her, stands up, lifts them as high above her head as she can, and she slams them down on the conference table and looks right at me and says, "I'm not spending one more bleeping minute in this room with those bleepity bleepity bleep holes," and walks out.
Well, that's a good start, right?
Yeah. And I looked down at Eddie and Russell and I said, "Well, thanks, guys. We're not working with her. She's a blankety this and a blankety that." And I said, "Well, we got to get this budget done. I got to go find her." So I walk. We're on the second floor where this conference room was, and I thought, well, maybe she walked across the hallway and is on the floor of the Senate in one of the members' desks. And sure enough, I find her on the floor of the Senate, and the smoke is just pouring out her ears, man.
Yeah.
She is just madder than a hornet. And I apologize. "I'm so sorry, Governor." And she's going 100 miles. "I'm not going to work with those guys there, or this and there or that. And finally, I get her calmed down. And I said, "Well, give me something that I can go back. You know, we've been arguing about 100 things, and that we found something that we had been arguing about $4 million. And so I said, let's split the difference on whatever item it was. And you get 2 and we get 2. And so okay. So I walk back over to the room. And I tell the guys, "Okay, she just gave us $2 million. We're not working with her. She's a this and she's a that." And I finally calmed them down and say, "Okay, she just gave us $2 million on something, so we got to give her." So finally they found something else that they could compromise on, and I went back across the hallway to talk to her about item number 2. This started at 9 p.m. at night, and at 3:30 in the morning, 6.5 hours later, after I had gone back and forth from one room to another because they wouldn't be in the same room with each other, we had the budget done. And sometimes it's that petty.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I have no doubt that
they would not be in the same room with each other, and I had to do shuttle diplomacy literally across the hallway to get the budget done that year.
And then was a couple of years later that they had the big deficit, and they started selling the buildings or whatever was going on, or decided to sell the state buildings and lease the money. And
yes, it was. I was term limited a couple years later, and by the time I left, we had balanced the budget. We had put $1 billion in the rainy day fund. We were doing good, and then the recession of 2008 hit. I had left in 2007.
Yeah,
and when the recession of 2008 hit, instead of cutting spending, I had been replaced in the Senate by a very moderate, Tom O'Halloran, who went on to be elected to Congress as a Democrat. But he had run for the state legislature up in Yavapai County as a Republican. But he was much more liberal than I was. And he and a few others gave her the votes that she needed to keep spending going up while the revenue was going down. And they got themselves into about a $3 billion deficit by 2009.
Yeah.
And they sold the state capitol. They mortgaged the lottery revenue for the next 10 years. They borrowed money. They swept money back from the schools. They mortgaged school buildings that had been paid off years before. And it was a mess. So, and yet Napolitano always, still to this day, takes credit that she rebuilt the rainy day fund, but it was really yours truly that got the rainy day fund back to $1 billion by 2007, and then she wiped it out in 2008 and 2009. And
she doesn't mention that though.
No, she doesn't mention the fact that she wiped it out in 18 months, but she likes to take credit for my demanding that we get the rainy day fund back to $1 billion by 2007.
Yep. That's good. Well, it sounds like, Ken, we could use you in some of the negotiations going on at the back in Washington, D.C.
Well, we got the same kind of stuff going on with the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's what it's going to come down to. Probably a similar kind of thing, where they're going to be running back and forth between a room to figure out what they're going to do, because they don't have a lot of playroom in that bill to make a lot of changes the way things are in the House. So it's going to be interesting. So
it only passed the House by one vote majority.
Not everybody was there, but it passed by one vote. So exactly.
And then in the Senate, in order to do reconciliation and do it with 51 votes, I think they can only lose 2 or 3.
Well, I think they have if they have J.D. Vance, you count J.D. Vance, so they would need 51, right?
Well, with Vance, they only need 50.
Yeah, okay.
If you can get to a 50 vote tie.
Yeah, so that would be 3, or that would be
Vance,
3.
Then Vance can be the 51st vote.
Yeah.
But
so they could lose 3 then. Yeah.
But I heard that Rand Paul is talking about not voting for it. Mike Lee from Utah, and there's another one. Can't think of his name.
Well, Ron Johnson's been making a lot of noise.
Ron Johnson, Wisconsin.
But I don't know. I sometimes wonder if, this reconciliation bill is not. It's really not a budget bill. It's a kickoff to Trump's agenda. Some things that he wanted done, and I think if they would just all understand that the budget's coming up in October, right? October 1st for next year's budget. And that's where they ought to be working for and getting all these cuts and things they want to do, and the Doge cuts and all that other stuff. So right now, I would think that they would jump on the president's bandwagon and get this done, because they've got to get that tax cut done.
But the Freedom Caucus in the House just announced yesterday that if the Senate makes too many changes, or any changes maybe, that they're now demanding that if the Senate makes any changes, then they want to pass another bill to implement all of the Doge cuts in order to, keep their support for the big, beautiful bill that Trump wants.
Yeah, and there's, and I guess you can have more than one reconciliation bill, right? It's not limited to one. I heard the Democrats had 2 or 3 during Biden's years. So the Inflation Reduction Act was a reconciliation bill. That's how they snuck. Really? That's how they snuck that through. So it's complicated. Politics and getting that stuff done is not easy to do. I'm glad I'm not a part of it. I wouldn't want to. But
I enjoyed being a part of it. I enjoyed being. In some key positions at certain times, like I described, where that 1 year that I just described, it literally took me walking from one room where Napolitano was to another room where the House negotiators were.
And you were so happy about sign day, right?
Sine die. Yeah, we got a sine die that year, and but barely. I don't think it would have happened without yours truly being there that night.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sounds like you were the key. So that's a couple of tough nuts in there too. Farnsworth and
Pierce
and Russell Pierce. Yeah, Russell Pierce was a terror. Yeah. So you remember Russell Pierce was the one that came up with the
1070.
1070. Yeah. Yep. Which a lot of people maybe remember, maybe they don't. But so you guys go ahead and tell me what your Paul. You said you had a couple of rants. What are your?
The first one was what you brought up about Hobbs and the fact that she's vetoed more bills coming out of the Republican-controlled Senate and House than any governor in the history of the world, I think. and my point was that, she has a responsibility as the governor. She was elected. How legitimately we can debate, but anyway, she is the governor, and it's her job to take care of the people of Arizona. And if she feels like a bill is not in the best interest of the people of Arizona, then she has a right and an obligation to veto it. But when her mission is just to make trouble for the Republicans, like all these lawsuits and lawfare suits against the president, these people are not taking care of the business. They're not taking care of the citizens. They're posturing themselves, and that's what kind of irritates me. So, but we discussed that a little bit. Nationally, I'm really kind of surprised that Elon Musk has gotten as adamant as he seems to be about this big beautiful bill. What is it? Politics is the art of compromise, or something like that.
Yeah. I think his resistance is the electric vehicle mandate was dropped, right?
Yeah, well, that and the tax credits.
And the tax credit, yeah.
But even so, to criticize the entirety of the thing, or to sound, at least to me, to criticize the entirety of the thing instead of just making some phone calls and saying put the EV credits back in or something like that. I don't. As far as Tesla cars go, I don't know. I found out you could buy a used one for $38,000, but you got to replace the battery, which is $26,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough money to afford to be able to take that credit, whatever it is.
Yeah, I hear you.
When I see something that says save $500, I know that's something I don't need, because if I can save $500, I can't afford it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It just irritates me. And of course, the Democrats just glom onto this Elon Musk thing because the president and Elon were so tight.
Yeah.
For the first 3 months that they were working together.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden, Elon starts criticizing the what do you call it, his flagship bill, to get this get all his campaign promises done. That's my rant. I just hate to see it, and I look at like Rand Paul, and I know he's got some principles, and his father was quite a conservative, and I want him to hold on to that, but it just seems to me that we need to learn to compromise intelligently, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yep. Agreed.
If you got a hole in your boat, you can't sit there and complain about water. You got to plug the hole, and that's what I see happening right now.
Well, and it's real early in the 4 years too, and we're talking about June. So we've been into the new administration for basically February, March, and April, and May. So that's it's way early, and Republicans have to show that they can lead and they can get things done, and they just make it so hard on themselves sometimes. At this time, I mean, get things going and then get into the fights about the regular budget. I understand that, but don't make it so difficult on yourselves, right? Because they've got to make hay and they've got to pass this bill, or they're going to get killed in the midterms. They could be in real trouble in the midterms next year. This is going to be a big hangover. People are going to say, "Well, we gave you the chance, and you didn't take advantage of it." And I saw today where what's his name, Schumer. Remember, Rush used to call Schumer Chuck Hughes Schumer. Schumer said that we're all going to die. That's what he put on X. He gave a speech in the Senate, said we're all going to die because of the big beautiful bill, right? Because you take illegals off of Medicaid, right? We're all going to die. I mean, we have people that are on Medicaid that don't work full time or don't work at all, And that's what they're trying to change on Medicaid, right? To get people working. And
Yeah, they're just trying to put some work requirements
Yeah,
into Medicaid.
right.
We have it. We have work requirements if you're going to be on Medicaid. There's a work requirement in Arizona. So
Yeah.
what they're trying to do for the country as a whole is nothing new to what we've had in Arizona for
Right.
20 years.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's going to make it very difficult for the illegals that are on Medicaid because they're not allowed to work. How is that going to work out there, Ken?
well,
Yeah, but they're illegal. They shouldn't have it anyway. So
there shouldn't be illegals on Medicaid. And
yeah, that's just got to
if
stop.
they've stolen somebody's social security number and working under that.
Yeah. Or they were assigned a number by.
Yeah, I wish they'd get my social security number. I'd like to get that fund built up again.
Start earning for you again, Paul.
Yeah, start earning for me.
There you go. So yeah, I don't know. You get the two sides of the thing where you have one person saying you're all going to die, and but then you get the other side where I guess I haven't heard anybody really overstate the bill. I've heard what's in the bill, and I think it's all out there for everybody to research and find out about everything if they'll do it. But all in all, it seems like everything in there seems like a good thing. I know there aren't the big, massive cuts that everybody wants, but like I said, it's a reconciliation bill. They have to have something to get through the Senate with 51 votes. That's the goal of doing this. That's the purpose of doing this, right? To stay away from the filibuster. So, which really complicates everything. So, anyway, Ken, rant, local rant, national rant.
Well, the national rant, it's really the same.
Yeah.
You've got someone mentioned, politics is the art of compromise. I don't ever expect someone to compromise their principles.
Right.
And, in all of the meetings I had with Janet Napolitano for 4 years, I didn't expect her to compromise her principles, and she didn't, I hope, expect me to compromise mine. But we did have to find ways, and I just described one where, we had 100 differences in a budget one year, and it's sometimes came down to, we're $4 million apart, and okay, we're going to split the difference, and you get 2 and we get 2. And I think one of my rants is that we have a far right element within the Republican Party that doesn't want to govern. They want to disrupt.
Yeah.
And they don't want to compromise. And when 2 or 3 guys out of 53 or 4 in the Senate, or 5 or 6 in the House, know that they can make a difference by withholding, it comes down to, I think, honesty and transparency. What I have found in my 20 plus years of public service is that nothing or no one is as good as the people who are supporting it say it is, nor is it as bad as the people who are opposing it say it is.
Right.
So Chuck Schumer's full of you-know-what when he says we're all going to die because of the big, beautiful bill. I mean, if he hasn't learned by now that we all are going to die, if you want to blame that on God or Mother Nature or whatever, yes, we're all going to die, but it ain't going to be because of the big, beautiful bill. Then you've got, I think, some responsibility on Trump's side and others to say, this isn't 100% roses.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's adding more to the deficit and the national debt over the next however many years it's going to affect it. Now, I saw the what's her name answering a question. The Congressional Budget Office says that the big beautiful bill is going to add $2.5 trillion to the national debt over the next 7 to 10 years. And she's trying to say, well, the Congressional Budget Office is a bunch of liberal Democrats, and we looked in and they gave money to all the Democrat federal office holders and very little money. Just admit, is it going to add some? Is it going to add 2.5? She says it's going to save $500 billion. Yeah. My guess is that it's somewhere in the middle. Yeah. It's probably not going to add 2.5 trillion, but I don't think it's going to save. And so, if both sides would be transparent and truthful and say, yeah, it's a big, mostly beautiful bill, but it probably spends more. If it's a reconciliation bill that is extending the tax cuts that are already in place, it's not creating any new ones.
Right. Adding some.
The Congressional Budget Office numbers are probably based on the assumption that the Trump tax cuts from 8 years ago are set to expire in another year, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if those were to expire and the federal government started collecting more money from Americans in the form of income taxes, then yes, I'm sure that continuing the tax cuts is going to cost the federal government some significant amount of revenue, and that's going to increase the national debt. But I guess my rant is when people over-represent one side and the other.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
The truth is usually somewhere in between the claims of how good something is or how bad something is.
And of course, the estimating over 10 years, you don't know what they pass, how much that's going to affect the economy. If we get big growth, right, then all those numbers go away. The bad numbers.
When you try to estimate out even a couple of years, let alone 7 to 10 years,
right,
all you got to do is change one little assumption in the model by 1/10%, and over 10 years, it's a big number.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't think it's as big and beautiful as Trump claims it is. I don't think it's obviously the death of us all like Schumer says it is.
Today I saw a statement by the what do they call it? The CBO, Congressional Budget Office.
Congressional Budget Office, yeah.
They said that tariffs are going to reduce the national debt by $2.7 trillion. They came out and stated that. The new tariffs.
Well, I've heard that they said that if the tariffs, as proposed, remain in place, it will bring in about $500 billion a year of revenue to the U.S.
Yeah.
And if you multiply that times however many years they multiply things out,
there you go.
And yes, you can get to $500 billion a year times 5 years is $2.5 trillion.
There you go.
That.
It's a numbers game. You can tell the story you want to tell, right? You can put together the numbers of the story you want to tell.
Yeah.
So
I have huge respect for the Mike Lees and the Rand Pauls and Ron Johnsons. And if they're uncomfortable that this is going to run up the deficit more than they want it to, I think we have to listen to that.
Yeah. Well, you think, I was always told, I heard that all these people have been talking to each other since January 20th about this. Senators and congressmen, they've all been working together on this, since January 20th. And so it puzzles me. That's kind of my rant is, why now, after all this time, and you've been working with each other and talking about it and knowing what the House is doing, why is there any big surprises to anybody, right? I mean, nobody in the Senate nobody in the Senate's been kept out of discussing this, and they all claim that they've all been part of the discussion. So So what's the big surprise? Or are they just trying to get headlines, or do some of these people want something, right? Used to be when you wanted something in the bill, you wanted something for your district. So you want another $2 million to build a new bridge or a road to nowhere or whatever they came up with, right? So what's the big surprise to everybody? Why not just put it together, come to an agreement, sit down with the Senate and the House members. Everybody's got to, and get it done. They just got to get this done, even if they have to use unconventional means, And I understand the Senate. The Senate is, sometimes I really think a lot of senators, I think they're full of themselves. And I say that at the national level.
Exclusive club in the world.
Yeah, because I hear these people run around like I hear some of them say, well, Joe Biden was really a nice guy. He's a good guy. Well, I'm not convinced of that. He might have been a good guy when he was a senator. I don't know. I don't know that he ever accomplished anything as a senator. I remember how he treated Justice Clarence Thomas in that, when he was when he got nominated in his hearing, and it wasn't good. So I don't think of Joe Biden as a good guy, but I hear Lindsey Graham say that all the time. Oh, he's really a nice guy. Joe Biden's a nice guy. Just,
Speaking of Lindsey Graham, what's he doing over in Ukraine negotiating for the United States?
It's called violating the Logan Act. That's what. Right. That's what. Yeah.
Him and Blumenthal. That's the closest to combat that Blumenthal's ever been in.
Yeah.
In spite of his claims to be a Vietnam veteran.
That's right. Yeah. What a guy to be running around with, right?
Yeah.
Man, that was kind of another rant of mine. Is Lindsey Graham spends more time in the Ukraine with Zelensky than he does in his home state of South Carolina, right? Yeah. What is he doing for South Carolina? I mean, come on. But yeah, I heard that Trump was really upset with him, but I haven't heard him say that publicly. So he can't be happy about that.
Nobody should be happy.
Because he was over there the day before the big drone thing, right?
Right, and from what I heard, the president wasn't informed that was going to happen.
Right, and Trump said that again today, that he didn't know that was going to happen. So, and nobody's talking about. You guys heard about the train blowing up the bridge and killing all the people on the trains, right? In Russia, didn't you? No. Yeah, they blew up a bridge and killed over 70 civilians on 2 trains that were passing underneath this bridge when the explosion went off. And the Russians are blaming that on Ukraine.
Well, I think Ukraine has done these. I think Ukraine took some offense at Trump's statement that Ukraine doesn't have any cards, and I actually think Zelensky said, "I'll show you something different," and I think they pulled off a pretty bold attack with these drones on the big bombers.
Yeah. Well, they did. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah. There's some kind of.
I think they were trying to prove that they got more cards in their hand than they have been given credit for.
Yeah, they said they've been planning that for 18 months. So.
No, but I see this as like the little guy with a small, like a pool cue or something like that. He walks up and he smacks the UFC fighter in the back of the head with his pool stick. And then he turns around and smiles to everybody and says, "See what I can do?" And about this time, the UFC fighter gets up off the ground and pulps him. I mean, just turns him into mush. And I have a feeling that Putin, they can fix the elections over there if they want to, but he still has to have a show and look like he's protecting the Russian people. And he's going to come back against Ukraine, and it's going to be ugly. That's my feeling.
I understand that's what he told Trump on the phone call yesterday. Yeah.
I think he's gonna do something that's not going to be as militarily oriented as the drone strikes were.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just it kind of reminds me of that old thing about Joey Lewis. I think it was Joe Lewis was the boxer. Is that the right guy?
Yeah.
And it used to be back in the 20s and 30s that it was a big deal to go into a bar and see one of these professional boxers and try to pick a fight with him. And then if you beat him, man, you were a local hero. And Joe was in having a beer, and this guy walked over to him and smacked him on the arm, and Joe just ignored him, and smacked him again, and Joe just ignored him, and finally he smacked him a third time, and Joe looked at him and said, "Mister, if you hit me again and I find out about it, you're going to be in big trouble." And that's how I feel. Zelensky's gone up and poked the tiger, and he's going to find out that the tiger's got teeth and claws, and that's going to hurt his people. That's the thing; it's going to hurt his people. If Zelensky goes away, that isn't a big deal. But
yeah, I always get the feeling that Zelensky doesn't care about his people really.
Oh, I don't think so either. He's been funneling money out of the country.
Yeah.
But what he wasn't funneling to the Congress, he's funneling to his own.
We know he owns a house down in Florida.
He's supposed to have some kind of a mansion in Europe.
He's got a home down in Florida, and he's got some kind of. So they're supposed to have 25 houses, is what I heard. But they know he owns one in Florida. So, yeah. But you're right, Ken. That was a bold thing, and well planned and well done, and surprised him. Now I don't think they destroyed 40 bombers. I think the number was like 5 to 7 they estimated. So, somehow they drove those trucks full of drones into the country, and the Russians. Don't ask me why they didn't. How they got through and where they went, because they were clear over in Siberia. One of the bases was clear over in Siberia. That's a pretty good trip on a truck. So.
Well, I guess these were drones that were hidden in some type of boxes and containers or whatever, and they've been, as you said, maybe they've been planning this for.
Yeah, they said they claimed 18 months. Operation Spiderweb, they call it. Spider's Web.
I generally agree with Paul that they're playing with fire, kind of hitting somebody on the back of the head with a pool cue. But this was a pretty impressive attack, I think.
I think.
The question is, did it do Ukraine any good? They weren't using those bombers against Ukraine.
Yeah, in the war, it wouldn't. In the long run of the war, it's not going to do them any good, because Russia's.
Oh, I thought I read, Paul, that these were exactly the bombers that have been bombing Ukraine. They're long-range bombers. Maybe I misread something.
Well, they're long-range bombers, but they're really more like our B-52s for nuclear. From what I read, they're nuclear bomb delivery systems.
They might have used them to launch cruise missiles. Conventional weapons.
Well, anyway, whatever it was.
Yeah.
They didn't get them all.
Yeah, the OTU-95 was designed and built in the 50s. It's a turboprop. Ford turboprop engine bomber, 400 knots maybe max, so not fast, pretty big, and they still, they have. I think they last modified them in the 1980s, is what I heard. That's their last iteration. Where our B-52s, we're still putting new engines on B-52s and new electronics and a lot of other things, and pretty much rebuilt the whole airframe. So, it was. You have to give them credit for what they did. Whether it was smart or not, I don't know. Whether in the long run, is it going to change the war effort? Nah, it's not going to change it. Although Russia might decide to move now from a special military operation to an all-out, whatever you want to call it, right?
Just conventional war.
Yeah. So we're going to see, but my only hope is that this, as far as I'm concerned, it's still Biden's war. Okay, it's Joe Biden's war, and as long as Trump stays on the outside and he doesn't get involved and get wrapped up in this thing, and approve some weapons deliveries or approve some operation or anything like that, right away it's going to become his war, right? And that'll be a bad thing. So that's what I think President Trump has to stay away from. He doesn't want this to become his war, because it's still Biden's war, and he's trying to find a way to negotiate out of it. But there's a lot of people pushing him, now to do more to Russia, to do more things. Lindsey Graham's pushing for 500% tariffs and sanctions and all kinds of stuff, and I think that's why he was over there talking to Zelensky, and which I totally disapprove of, if my word counts. But I hope Trump really puts the hammer down on Lindsey. But Trump's got to stay away from that. He's got to stay on the outside looking in, saying, I'm the guy that wants this thing to stop, and keep it that way, because it won't be good if it becomes a Trump's war. So
Well, in Europe and the EU is pushing to they're supporting Ukraine against Russia.
oh yeah, that's why the
And-
German
and
guy's
so-
over here today talking to Trump, because he's doing the same thing, trying to suck him in.
So we got, and Europe, the EU could really trigger this thing if they start doing something silly like moving armaments into Poland or places like that,
Yeah.
where they're right on the Russian border.
Now I did hear, you heard that Poland elected a conservative president, right?
Yeah.
And then Serbia today, their election, they elected Melania Trump's this lady was an attorney for Melania. She got elected the president of Serbia today. I think it was Serbia. And
I've heard that.
yeah, so, and she's and then there's a new Korean president, got elected yesterday, and the first thing he said is that Zelensky poked Russia into war. So now the EU and all of them, they're going crazy because the Korean guy doesn't want to have anything to do with the war in Ukraine. So
he's got North Korea sitting on his.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they've had all kinds of problems.
There's a bucket of insanity there.
We also had some news in Florida today that just before I came in here, and I didn't tell you guys this, but we have a county called Osceola County, and the biggest city in that county is Kissimmee, which is just south of Orlando. And the Osceola County sheriff got arrested today. DeSantis suspended him, and he's been accused of a grand larceny, running a big gambling ring down in Osceola County. So not good. Yeah, not good for a sheriff. They can't be involved in those kind of things,
Not supposed to be anyway. Yeah.
I know. So how is Nanos doing? Have you heard anything about him?
I haven't heard anything about him in about 3 months, I guess.
And you have a Republican sheriff in Maricopa County now, Ken?
Well, I'm in Yavapai County.
You're in Yavapai, but there's a Republican in Maricopa now, right?
Yeah, Republican.
Yeah. And who's your sheriff up in Prescott, in the Prescott area?
David Rhodes,
Yeah.
really good guy.
Good guy.
Just got reelected to a second term in Yavapai County, and I think he's president of the Arizona Sheriff's Association, and
good.
speaks at the Capitol on bills and stuff.
Is he signed
Rhodes
up?
is really good.
Is he signed up with 287G? Do you know?
I think so.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Nanos is. I don't think Nanos.
Yeah, I don't think Nanos or Santa Cruz County.
Oh yeah, Santa Cruz. Yeah, man, they got
Santa Cruz and Pima are.
They got their own world down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has Katie Hobbs done anything about immigration? Does she talk about it? Does she do anything?
She talks about it. Yeah, she talks about it quite a bit. She said that she's going to create a task force to, figure out what they can do to help control the border. She knows how sensitive the whole issue is in Arizona, and that she can't. And you see that with the senators. The U.S. senators are kind of taking a moderate centrist position on, we got to have border security and.
Because Kelly was pretty much an open borders guy for months. I don't know where Gallegos stood on it, but Gallegos
has moved very much to the middle, because I think he knows that that's not a winning proposition for the Democrats to continue to advocate for open borders.
Yeah, criminals, right?
You know, the Pima County Board of Supervisors voted 4-1 to not support militarization of the border. They don't want that going down there, and the county board is embarrassingly left. I mean, they really are. We got Adelita Grijalva, who's running to take her dad's place.
Yeah.
Which will keep. I guess that means that the supporters won't have to change the name on the checks they send in.
That's right.
They can just say to Grijalva, and it'll go right in the same account.
Well, Steve Christie.
Anyway,
Steve Christie's the only one on there that's
yeah,
Republican,
it works
right?
for the Americans.
Yeah.
So we worked hard to keep him in, and we tried real hard to change out some of those other ones. But the people here are just, I don't know, scary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand. You can imagine what it's like up in Detroit and Michigan and Chicago and L.A. and San Francisco. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just a nightmare. And you saw where they're closing the 2 refineries in California?
Yeah, they said that could affect the price of gas here.
The gas in California is going to go to $10 a gallon.
Wow.
Can you imagine
If you can
that?
get any.
If you could get it, yeah. What's your guys' gas right now? What's your gas in Prescott, Ken? How much per gallon?
310, 315.
How about you?
I think I paid $2.79 the other day.
Okay.
Here in Green Valley.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're down to we've been down as low as 269 in Florida. And you know, our gas comes from Texas by ship and all goes into the Tampa area and gets unloaded in Tampa. So we don't get any overland gasoline or any pipelines. So kind of different here, but it's coming down. And if you get with Circle K here, you get some special deals where you get a quarter off on every tank, quarter a gallon on every tank. And then if you buy if you fill up 5 times on that, then you get 50 cents off your next fill up. So they got some pretty good deals. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll create loyalty.
There you go. Yeah. So, okay, guys, anything else you want to mention, talk about, cover? It's really good to see you guys. It's great to talk with you always. And everybody available next week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think
Okay. I think Jeff will be with us next week. He had to meet with one of his heirs of the Republic supporters, a big donor today, so he didn't think he'd be on. And you know, his meeting coming up, he's going to have Dave Gowan and somebody else from the legislature at his meeting this month. I think it's June 18th.
Yeah. I'm scheduled to go to that.
Yeah. So take notes and you can tell us what it was like, Paul.
Okay.
And I'm sure Ken's got something planned coming up soon. How did your boxing go? Your last one? Pretty good.
Last one. Yeah, I explained the state budget to the Southwest Republican women down in Maricopa County, and
there you go.
went great. The
new boxes worked out.
I may start doing that a little more because as the budget continues to not come together, I've got people asking me, well, what do we spend money on? So I might have to, maybe I'll have to create a little video and we can play it one day on this program.
No, we could do it on here and play it. Yeah, you can come on here and do it, Ken, and we can do a special Zoom, give you the whole screen, and yeah, you can put it together. That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, easy to do. Okay, guys. Well, thank you for coming on. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Take care of yourselves.
God
Be
bless
safe.
America.
Yes, sir. God bless America.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better.
Maxwell!
Yeah?
You're home.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Mrs. A.